For the first time in UK law, the private copying of material from one format or one device or one carrier medium to another has been legalized. Up until the day before yesterday, it was in fact unlawful if you have a music CD to put that music onto your smartphone to listen to on the bus, and that changed yesterday. Of course, throughout Europe, the private copying has been legal for many years, but there's a critical difference here. In Europe, a levy is charged on equipment, subscriptions, and so forth to provide a fund of money which the CMOs can then pay back to the writers whose material is used, and of course other creators. The UK government has declined to introduce any such levy system. It has simply freed up private copying for personal use without any compensation to the author at all. Of course, we believe this is contrary to the current European Union directives. Directives basically means international laws, and there will be legal cases brought in the UK to try to establish that there must legally be remuneration for this private copying.
This year, finally, the European Union came with the directive on the CMO, on the collective management organizations, and multinational online licenses, which is quite new in Poland, and I believe also for many member states of the European Union, because by now those issues were regulated only by the state laws. There were no regulation, no harmonization in that fact concerning the organization of CMOs.
What we hear is copyright is a problem because many international corporations don't want to pay. To give you the exact figure of what private copy represents in Europe in collection, it's 0.06% of the total turnover of all the digital companies and those who produce recorded material, material for recording. So it's nothing, and in many countries, this is a huge amount of money. There is something that the right of the director must keep with them when they transfer all the right to somebody else to exploit the work. They have to keep something. They keep the moral rights, but above all, they have to live out of their profession, and so buyout should be prohibited all over Europe. It's not possible that you do a movie, it's circulating, or a TV series all around Europe, and when you're French, you may get something because in your contract and by law you have a right to be paid, but if you are German, you cannot, or if you are English, you cannot get money from France except for some remuneration specified in the law. So we are saying copyright right now is the only system we know that make people invest because it's ownership, and so people invest in a film because they will have the right to sell it and distribute it. But copyright is also something that should benefit to the creators, hence our saying that the authors should be at the heart of copyright.
Discussion on exceptions and limitations are very complex, so just very generally what people say basically is that what consumers who responded say, that there is an absolute need to ensure that basically works that have been created under exceptions in one country are accessible from other countries. So there is a lot of discussion again about cross-border access. On the contrary, others say that exceptions are very diverse in different countries, but that's a reason because they have a role basically in to support public policy, cultural policy objectives of the individual countries. There is a need from intervention from the EU to counterbalance the weaker bargaining position of individual authors and performers. And of course the ideas are completely different. Some say that there should be some prohibition of certain contractual clauses. Others say that there should be a remuneration right for certain forms of online exploitations. Then others say that there should be some support for collective bargaining. On the contrary, of course, producers, broadcasters argue that the contractual freedom is the right solution.
The private copy hasn't been extended to any other new, like iPod or phone or whatever, and it's not much help on VHS anymore and tape cassette. So they called it the iPod tax, and their argument, like everywhere else, is that consumers don't want to pay. But to me, it's not an argument, because I don't want to pay my income tax, and I have to do it anyway. And we have, like everywhere else in the world, very strong integrated corporation that owns every level. They have the broadcast, they have the cable, they are internet provider as well, and very often they will ask for every right on anything that they buy, and they don't want to pay for the specific rights. And for example, if they buy a show from a broadcaster, they will exige, they will ask that to have all the rights. If not, they won't put that show on their other platforms.
All these new ways of distributing works are fantastic. I can't find any one writer who will not say, I want my work to be on the net. I want everybody to see my work. The only problem is that in this value chain of investment in audiovisual production, somebody is there that wasn't before and has taken part of the value and is not redistributing. I work at SACD, and I can tell you the money we distribute from the contracts we have done with Google, with new internet companies, has nothing to do with our traditional network. So the value is gone. We cannot get the same amounts.
In my understanding of what copyright is, it's the right that if someone makes money with what I wrote, I make money too, and it's just fair. So I don't see why it can't be adapted and live on the internet. We seem to have a geographical problem instead of a philosophical problem. I mean, yes, it will be available to more people, so then we should make more money. So I think it's simple. So go on and solve that.
I don't quite get the logic of us being told over and over and over again that there's something fundamentally wrong with copyright, but never being told what it is that they want to put in place as a substitute. And what worries me is that their plan is to break it. I don't mean it's an active plan. I mean that they would be happy if they arrived in a situation where the copyright system was broken and no solution was proposed.
Despite stupid people who think everything should be free and that copyright is some kind of attack on society, despite that, I do think the basic fundamental principle of copyright may actually be breaking. It's quite hard to explain this in a few sentences, but I've given lots of speeches over the years about copyright, pointing out that it goes back over 300 years at a time when printed books were luxury goods, and it has adapted and worked well through many innovations. I mean, mass literacy in the middle of the 19th century, mass circulation newspapers, the cinema, the radio, the turn of the 20th century and early 20th century, recorded sound, the development of television. Copyright has actually worked well with all those developments. It's quite surprising how the concept has adapted. But all those kinds of distribution of copyright material either depend on there being limited numbers of copies or limited opportunities to view or to hear them. And it seems to me that the development of the internet does fundamentally change that. Because once something is on the internet, you can't recall it. There only needs to be one copy of something on the internet, and in effect, there are infinite copies. This has a number of disturbing effects for us. First of all, of course, it devalues the price of each individual copy, but it also means that the fundamental meaning of copyright, it's quite a positive word, copyright, but actually it's a negative right. It's the right of an author to say, no, you can't copy my material without my permission. And of course, generally speaking, you only get my permission if you pay me some money. But once that thing is out on the internet, there is no actual mechanism to operate that prohibition. You can't do it. It's there. People are going to look at it. And I think we have to fundamentally think how we address that. And in doing so, I think we should do what guilds and unions are good at. We should analyze the situation, come to some different policies, and then negotiate those policies. And also, another factor in a negotiation is that you have to reconsider whether all of your arguments are correct. This is my last point. The fact is that the anti-copyright brigade have an advantage when they can point to things that actually are difficult to justify in copyright. And I'll just give one example of this. It's a very well-known one. The extremely long term of copyright after the author is dead or after the publication by the corporation. I think that is quite hard to justify. I think we should be thinking about whether that is the right policy and thinking about whether we should find some way of reaching a consensus among ourselves that we could put into some sort of European or global negotiation, if such a thing can be contrived. Because if we say we have what we hold, even though what we hold is not really justifiable, then I think we put ourselves at a disadvantage in all these consultations.